In the Etruscan world, the term Lucumo was an important title used to describe a person of high aristocratic rank and authority. Etruscan society was not organized as a centralized kingdom, but rather as a network of independent city-states. Each of these cities possessed its own political leadership, usually drawn from powerful aristocratic families. Within this system, the leader of such an elite lineage was often called a Lucumo. The word, therefore, did not simply refer to a ruler in a narrow political sense. It also carried meanings related to nobility, prestige, sacred legitimacy, and social authority. In Etruscan culture, political power and religious authority were deeply intertwined, and the Lucumo was often viewed as a figure who stood at the intersection of these spheres. In this sense, he represented both the worldly leadership of the community and its connection to the divine order. Powerful Etruscan cities such as Tarquinia, Veii, Caere, Vulci, and Clusium formed the core of Etruscan civilization, and these cities were largely governed by aristocratic families who controlled land, trade networks, and military resources. The heads of these families were frequently described as Lucumones, meaning members of the elite class who held political influence. A Lucumo typically managed the administration of the city, commanded the army during times of war, and participated prominently in religious ceremonies and state rituals. Religion was an essential element of Etruscan life, particularly practices such as divination, sacrificial rites, and the interpretation of celestial signs. Because of this close relationship between religion and governance, the Lucumo worked closely with the priestly class and often relied on religious authority to reinforce his political legitimacy. The title of Lucumo also reflects the broader social structure of Etruscan aristocracy. Etruscan society was organized around powerful family networks that controlled wealth, land, and political influence. As a result, the Lucumo was rarely just an individual leader. He represented an entire lineage whose power extended through generations. This suggests that political authority in Etruscan cities was deeply connected to aristocratic family structures. Although some cities eventually moved away from monarchic forms of leadership and adopted more collective systems of governance, the concept of the Lucumo remained a defining feature of early Etruscan political culture and identity. The influence of this aristocratic tradition can also be seen clearly in the early history of Rome. Several early Roman rulers were believed to have Etruscan origins. One well-known example is Tarquinius Priscus, the fifth king of Rome, who according to Roman tradition was originally known by the name Lucumo before rising to power. He came from an Etruscan aristocratic background and later moved to Rome, where he adopted the Roman name Lucius Tarquinius. His rise within Roman society illustrates the powerful role that Etruscan elites played in shaping the political life of early Rome. Many of the public works, architectural projects, and institutional reforms associated with Tarquinius Priscus reflect the influence of Etruscan political traditions and administrative practices. The concept of the Lucumo also reveals important cultural and symbolic aspects of Etruscan civilization. Etruscan elites are well known for their elaborate tomb monuments, richly painted burial chambers, and grand ceremonial traditions. Archaeological discoveries show that these aristocrats viewed themselves not only as political leaders, but also as warriors and participants in sacred rituals. The Lucumo embodied all of these roles simultaneously. The title symbolized military leadership, social prestige, political authority, and sacred responsibility within the community. Although the Etruscan city-states eventually lost their independence as Roman power expanded across Italy, many elements of Etruscan aristocratic culture continued to survive within Roman society. Various religious practices, forms of divination, and symbols of authority in Rome were inherited directly from Etruscan traditions. For this reason, the concept of the Lucumo remains an important key for understanding both the political structure of Etruscan society and the formative influences that shaped the early development of Roman civilization.